This is a letter from Tafshin Lamed Daled, and it's interesting because the Fabrengens of a lot of times there are certain topics when the Rebbe writes a Michtav Kloli, which this is a general letter to, like we'll soon see, to all Jewish men and women. So a lot of times we will find that it runs in concert and in tandem with many of the topics that the Rebbe had spoken about at that time by the Fabrengens. And in the Fabrengens in Tafshin Lamed Daled during the month of Elul and even during the month of Av, which I think we also learned some of those excerpts, the theme of Bitochon was repeated quite a few times. And over here in this letter, the idea of Bitochon and Hashem and Simcha is also going to be emphasized. So it begins, the title is Michtav Klali. As we know, the Rebbe wrote private letters, and then on certain occasions, like before Tishrei, and in the middle of Tishrei, and during Pesach, before Pesach, etc., and other times of the year, the Rebbe wrote general letters to Klal Yisrael. Baruch Hashem Yemei Slichos Tafshin Lamed Daled, the days of Slichos of the year Tafshin Lamed Daled, Brooklyn, New York. Al Bnei Ubenois Yisrael, to Jewish men and women, Asher B'chol Mokim and Mokim, and that are in every single place. Hashem Aleim Yichyu, Hashem should be upon them, they shall live long. Shalom Abracha, greetings and blessings. Echad Ha'inyanim Ha'ikrim Shal Rosh Hashanah, one of the primary concepts of Rosh Hashanah is Yom Zeh, Hu Zeh Shezeh HaYom Sheba Nivra Adam, that it's the day that Adam Arishon was created. We don't mark the beginning of the year with the day that the world was created, but we mark it with the day that Adam Arishon was created, which was the sixth day of creation, Aleph Tishrei. Because it was the date of the creation of Adam Arishon, Lefichach Meshamish Rosh Hashanah Gam Ki Yom Hadin Shel Adam. Therefore, Rosh Hashanah is also the day of judgment of man, v'chein shelo olam kuloi, and also by extension of the entire world, because shenivra b'shvil Adam, the entire world was created for man. So therefore, depending upon how man acts, not just his personal year is determined, but the entire world that was created for his sake. And ba'oifen sha'adam yichbash oisai v'yanig oisai, that the world was created in such a manner that the person should conquer it, as it says, that Hashem told Adam that v'kivshuha, your job is to conquer the world, meaning to run the world according to his direction, which should be in accordance and corresponding to Hashem's will. This fits in also why Rosh Hashanah is the coronation day. On the day of Rosh Hashanah, the Yidden both coronate Hashem as our king, as the king of Yisrael, and also as the king of the world. We ask from Hashem in all of the davenings of Rosh Hashanah, which means both the davenings is talking about, when we're talking about Tfilas Hamidah, the Shemoneh Esrei, all the Tfilas of Shemoneh Esrei, and so on, even in Kiddush, and even when we are saying the Haftarah, we're saying the brachas on Haftarah, Maloich ala olam kuloi, reign over the entire world. Toich Bitochon Molei. Here's the first time where the Rebbe mentioned Bitochon, out of clear and full assurance and confidence, that Hashem will accept and fulfill this request, and he will accept our coronating him. The Rebbe, in a footnote on the bottom, says, on the words Bitochon Molei, that he focuses on what the Alter Rebbe says in Igeres HaTshuva. The Alter Rebbe says in Igeres HaTshuva that when we make a bracha, about Hashem doing something, it cannot be anything in doubt, because since one cannot make a bracha when there is any type of doubt, because Sofik brachas lahakil, because you don't want to say Hashem's name in vain. So we say a bracha, we are assured that Hashem is going to fulfill that. So therefore, when we make a bracha on the words Maloich ala olam kuloi, that we make a bracha that says that Hashem reigns and will reign over the entire world, we have the full trust and confidence that Hashem will actually accept our request. Then the Rebbe continues, move on mail of 2 paragraphs in the bottom. It's self-understood. The coronation, that we coronate Hashem, has to be wholeheartedly, has to be fully so. This means Yachad im regesh shel yiras haroim, along with the awe and the feeling, the exaltedness of Hashem, the King of the world. But alongside with that, vim chedva amuka al kach shakadosh baruch hu kiblas achtorah. And there's a very deep rejoicing. Here we have the topic of Simcha, that Hashem accepted the coronation. This makes us very happy, since this is something we truly desire, that Hashem should be our king. And since we are assured that Hashem does accept our request to be a king, so therefore there's a great joy that Hashem accepts our coronation. Alongside with that, v'yachad im achlota esana al nemonos umashmas lemitzvoisav, along with a strong resolve to being faithful to and disciplining ourselves to His commands, l'kaimon yom yom, to fulfill His commandments, and fulfill His mitzvahs daily. B'chol echad b'mei hashana eleha nichnasim, in every single one of the days of the year that we are entering into, ata, both now, v'gam la'achrim kain, and also afterwards. The Rebbe points out the famous idea that it's called Rosh Hashanah because, first of all, just like a head includes in it the life force and vitality of the entire body, so too the head of the year, Rosh Hashanah, is not the beginning of the year, indicating that all the energy and divine power and vitality of the entire year for the next 364 days are all included in Rosh Hashanah. And additionally, not just is all the vitality of the body included in the head, but also the head directs the entire body. In a similar vein, Rosh Hashanah directs every single day of the year. So therefore, the resolution and the fact that we resolved to do so, this is something that is indicating that expresses itself not just on the day of Rosh Hashanah, but for the rest of the year, because the rest of the year is led by the head of the year, Rosh Hashanah. A few more points, by the way, some very interesting footnotes over here. The Rebbe speaks about the idea of, first of all, Yemei HaSlichos, the significance that this letter is written in the days of Slichos. He says, in this year, whenever Rosh Hashanah comes out on a Tuesday, like this year as well, Tafshin Pei Hey, and also the same, actually Tafshin Pei Vav, and the same thing in Tafshin Lamed Daled when this letter was written. So when it comes out on a Tuesday, it's the most amount of slichas that one can recite, because we need to have a minimum of 4 days of slichas, and since we don't have a minimum of 4 days, so we have to go back all the way to a week prior to that. The Rebbe, another place, also points out that there's 2 Shabbosim in slichas, which is also a very powerful thing. Also, the Rebbe points out that in davening we find both concepts of the coronation. We said before that we make Hashem and accept Hashem we coronate Him as a king over Yisrael, and we coronate Him over the entire world. So this is also the famous expression that says that Hashem asks of us, Tamlichuni Aleichem, make me a king over you. So that's about Klal Yisrael. And then in the tefillos of the davening throughout Rosh Hashanah, all the Shemoneh Esrei tefillos, we say Meloich al kol ha'olam kulei, reign over the entire world. So there's both ideas, both Hashem being our king and also the king of the entire world. And the truth is, we see this the whole time in the brachas. Every single bracha that we recite, we say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech ha'olam. What's the meaning behind it? First, He is our God, and then by making Him our God and connecting to Hashem personally, so then we do the next step and we make Hashem the king over the entire world. Okay, so let us continue the next page in the letter. So we said that on Rosh Hashanah, we are being faithful to our king, along with coronating him and being joyful in the coronation. We accept him upon ourselves as our king. And because we're accepting himself upon our king, so therefore we are also resolving to do whatever he commands us to do throughout the year. So he says, the general and the primary resolution is to act b'chalal in general, u'b'chol perek mechayi yom yom, and in every component and part of our day-to-day life, behesem l'tachlis b'riyos shel ha'olam, appropriate and corresponding to the purpose of the creation of the person. Shehi kibita chachmeinu zal b'mishpat kotzer. Our Chachamim expressed this in a very short sentence. Ani nivreisi l'sham sheskoini. I was created to serve my Maker. And how does this service is? L'sham shoyse b'simcha. I need to serve Him out of joy. Kitzivu, you like the command, Ivdus Hashem b'simcha. So that's part of the resolution. I'm resolving that every part of my day, even the parts that are not necessarily explicitly a mitzvah, but since every part of my day, we say, B'chol d'rachecha da'eyu, in all your ways, you need to know Him. So therefore, every part of the day, I am in service of my Maker, and since I'm serving Hashem, and service of Hashem has to be done joyfully, so every part of my day that is infused with the service of my Maker is done so in a way of joy. Now, what is the purpose and the goal? So he says in the second paragraph in this letter, the content and the primary thing and the goal of this service that we serve Hashem is to make for Him, blessed be He, a home down here below. What does that mean? The Rebbe translates it in more practical terms. To act in such a fashion that in every detail of the world surrounding us, how much more so, every detail in the person's life becomes a home for godliness. So both the world that surrounds me, everything around me is a home for Hashem, and every aspect of my life, every detail of my life becomes a home for Hashem. How is this accomplished, both in the world around me and in every detail of my life? This is something that's accomplished through a day-to-day life in accordance and following Torah mitzvahs. Kol amur nidrish mikol ben Yisrael. All the above, what the Rebbe spoke about, is demanded and asked of every single Jewish person, ish or isha, man or woman, tzoyer or zakin, young or old, b'li hevdel ben maimed or matzav shaboy shorei, regardless of whatever state and situation they find themselves in. And the Rebbe is going to bring a proof of this across-the-board aspect from this week's parsha. Like the matter is also emphasized in the pasuk that's connected with the Rosh Hashanah at the beginning of our parsha, Atem nitzavim hayoim kulchem. You are all standing today, Lifnei Hashem Elokechem, before Hashem your God. Roshechem, your heads, Ad Shoivim Mecha, till your water carriers. In other words, regardless of who you are and what your station in life is, Mikol Yehudi Lelo Yotzim and Aklal, from every Jew without exception. Nidrash, it's asked with Sofwi, and it's expected, Sheyagial Ledargas Atem Nitzav Lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, that they should reach a state of you are standing before Hashem your God, which means Hisyatzvus Eisona. It means a powerful standing. It doesn't say Atem Oimdim or some other expression that could speak about the Yidden being in the presence of Hashem. The specific choice of words, Atem Nitzavim, Nitzavim is connected with the phrase Nitzav Melech, like a king stands fast. When a king stands, it's with the full power of his reign and his strength as a king. The same thing when the Torah tells us, Atem Nitzavim Hayom, all of you, Kulchem, no matter what your station is, you are all standing fast in being connected and being before Hashem, without taking into consideration how the previous year passed. Because Hayoim, as we've spoken about on different occasions, where it says Atem Nitzavim Hayoim, this day is referring to the day of Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, since Hayoim is referring to the day of Rosh Hashanah, it's a new year. The fact that it's a new year means that whatever occurred in the past, that's in the past. I might have been in such a state and situation over the past year that has no bearing. The whole idea of being new, a new year indicates like being a new person. And that indicates that the past has no bearing on the present. What's in the past is in the past. Now today I am standing fast, I am standing as strong as any other Yid is before Hashem. So now here the Rebbe is going to bring in where Bitochon fits into this, because one of the big maladies of our generation is we doubt ourselves. We don't think we have what it takes. We don't think we can do what is expected of us. So the Rebbe says in the second part, over here, the question arises, how can it be asked from every Jew to reach such a level? And additionally, be'emes u'besimcha, that this level should be not something that he's faking it or he's acting, but he's truly holding by that level of being lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, before Hashem your God. And he's doing so out of joy because he's confident and he trusts and he knows that this is going to happen. This is especially something that casts a shadow of a doubt when from one side we take into account we're talking here about making a home for Hashem in a spiritually degraded world, a spiritually low world, oilam chumri v'gashmi, a material, physical world. Oilam boi b'nei Yisrael heim begashmis hama'at mikol ha'amim, a world within which the Jewish people are physically the fewest of all the nations. And despite that he's the fewest of all the nations, and he's living in such a degraded and such a low world, such a world of physicality, how can he overcome his environment? How can he overcome the lowness of the world? Especially there's so much of the rest of the world other than the Yid. U'mitzad sheni, on the other hand, hadover nidrish mina Yehudim, this is demanded from a Jew, not while he's in the most spiritual states, but kefi shu shori b'matzav sheboi tzrachim chumrim. The way he rests in a situation, he finds himself in a state that physical material needs, that without those material needs, it's impossible for him to exist. like eating, drinking, sleep, being involved in making a living, etc. They occupy a great portion of his time and his energy. To such a degree that only a small amount of time remains for spirituality and holiness. How is it possible that a person can overcome this? There's like so much on top of him. First of all, he's in a low world. Second of all, the low world is much bigger than him. There's all these other nations except for him. On top of that, even in my own life, I'm not secluded from that world by being immersed in Torah and Tefillah mitzvahs all day. The majority of my day is involved in material pursuits, necessities, but they're material things. There's only a small amount of my day that's left for spiritual things, spiritual pursuits, holy pursuits. So how can I be expected, being so small in such a big world, and so few of my hours and moments that can be devoted to holiness, how can I make my life and the world at large into a home for Hashem? So the Rebbe says a Hezber Lakach, the explanation for this is Hezber Hamuven L'chol Echad Ve'echad Achas. This is an explanation that's understood to every single man and woman. Ka'amr, like we said before, Nimtza, the explanation is found Be'inyan HaBitochon B'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the concept of trust and confidence and faith in Hashem. Shuhu Yisoid B'Torah. This is a foundational belief in Torah. Torah's Chaim, the Torah of life, which is Hayrah B'Chaim. It's a directive and a life lesson. As this is emphasized in the chapter of Tehillim that we say twice a day throughout the entire month of El, which is Chodesh HaAchana L'Shana Chadasha. The month of El is a month of preparation for the new year. V'gam b'tchilas Hashana. We also recite this chapter at the beginning of the year, B'chelkei HaGadol Shel Chodesh Tishrei, in the majority of the month of Tishrei, because we're going to say L'David Hashem Oidi, not just during the month of El, but we also say it in the month of Tishrei twice a day until Hoshana Rabbah, which is going through most of the month. What do we say over there? L'David Hashem Oidi V'Yishi. A song for David. Hashem is my light and my salvation. Mimi ira gomer. From whom do I need a fear? HaBitochon b'Hashem oisim mevati David HaMelech b'shmoi shel kol ish Yisrael. The trust and confidence in Hashem that David HaMelech expresses in the name of the whole Klal Yisrael, in the name of every single Jew. Ha'istamchus ha'muchletes al ezers ha'kadosh baruch hu. The complete and total reliance on Hashem's assistance. Makif heinas enyonim hagashmin shebachayim beheinas haruchnim. We see that what David HaMelech is talking about, our reliance on Hashem, encompasses reliance on material matters in our life and also spiritual aspects of our lives. Ad l'kedei hasogas dargas hadarga ha'elyono beyoser b'avodas Hashem, until even attaining the most highest level in the service of Hashem. Like it's seen from the continuation of all the different psukim. Shifti beveis Hashem, Hashem. I want to sit in the home of Hashem. I want to see the beauty of Hashem, etc., etc. We're talking not just about trust and not having fear and having Hashem my light and my salvation when it comes to material things. We're talking even about the highest levels of service of Hashem. I have trust in Hashem that He will help me. And ad lepasuk ha'achra, until the final pasuk where we express that confidence in Hashem that we conclude all these different things that we spoke about, how we want to see Hashem, etc., etc., and we conclude, Kavel Hashem, hope to Hashem, Chazik v'yamitz lebecha, strengthen and fortify your heart, v'kavel Hashem, and hope to Hashem, that all of the things that we spoke about in chapter 27 in Tehillim, l'David Hashem oidi, in all the material needs that a Yid needs and all the spiritual needs are all going to be fulfilled and attained. And how do we, so the Rebbe also in a footnote brings down, seemingly when it comes to spiritual things, that should be up to us. But the Rebbe says that even those things that are spiritual matters, Hashem says, if not for Hashem assisting him, we wouldn't be able to overcome. So we see that Hashem's assistance is in spiritual matters as well. And if we examine all types of parts of davening, in Birchas HaShachar, in Birchas Krishma, we find all different types of places in davening where we ask and we are expecting from Hashem not just assistance in physical matters, but in spiritual matters. So therefore, the hope and trust that we are expressing L'David Hashem Oiri is, as it's explicit over there in that chapter, it's referring to hope and trust and belief and confidence that Hashem is going to help us in the spiritual avodah as well. Second paragraph, in Bitochon, who the idea of trust and confidence is Hargosha shel vados. It's a feeling of surety, v'ishtachnus, and one is convinced Shakadosh Baruch Hu Yisayel is Gaber al Kol Koshi Achaim, that Hashem will assist to overcome all difficulties of life, Chumrim veruchnim, both material and spiritual. Mishum Shehu Oiri v'Yishi. Why and how does he do this? Because he is our light and he is our salvation. Ubevada yukol echad v'kol achas mesugolim levatzer shlichusam ba'olam hazeh. And surely everyone will have the capability to fulfill their mission in this world. Umetoich simcha gedoyle b'yoser, and out of a joy and a great joy. How come? What leads him to this joy? When a person contemplates the matter that Hashem chose him to be his representative in the world, that Hashem chose me to be the one to make for Hashem a home down here below. Along with the promise that Hashem will give us light and salvation and might for the sake of being able to fulfill this mission. So therefore, that brings him to great joy. And then, and the joy grows even more when a person contemplates that the assistance that Hashem gives him, it's in such a manner that I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me, meaning that Hashem does it, that Hashem does it for him and assists him in a godly love, an uncommon and unnatural godly love, an amazing, most powerful godly love. Something that was begun primarily in the period of time that begins on the first day of the month of El, and it continues till after Yom Kippur, like it's explained by our sages, that Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li is talking about those 40 days of between Rosh Chodesh El and Yom Kippur, the same final 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Har Sinai, which is also hinted in the last letters of the phrase Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li. There are 4 Yuds. Yud is the numerical equivalent of 10. 4 times 10 is 40. It's going on those 40 days. It's Hashem's powerful love to us during that period. Lefichach, therefore, so this matter, this awareness, has to, in this period of time, from Rosh Chodesh Shel to Yom Kippur, and not just in that period of time, but throughout the whole year, it has to inspire by the person as well an unlimited love for Hashem in response to Hashem's great love to us. As it's emphasized in the pasuk, Mili b'shamayim, who is to me in heavens? I don't want anything in the heavens, the Yid says. V'im cholei chafasti ba'aretz, I do not desire anything with you in the land. Kol ha'sheiri v'lavavi, my body, my heart is expiring. V'goymer tshuka shel klois hanefesh al HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a yearning of an expiring of the soul to Hashem. Afkan mudgashim ha'ava l'Kadosh Baruch Hu. Also here is emphasized the love to Hashem, va'bitochon boy, and the trust in Hashem legabe kol inyanim shebeshamayim, over all matters of heaven. Shemashmu'usay gam inyanim ruchnim, it indicates also spiritual matters, v'sheba'aretz, and in the land, in the earth, ha'inyanim agashim, the physical matters. In other words, what the Rebbe is explaining this pasuk is mili b'shamayim. I don't have to care about what's going on with my spirituality. Why? I have full trust and confidence that Hashem will take care of that. V'im cholei chafasti ba'aretz, I don't have to worry about anything that's going on down here on the earth, down here in the ground. Why? Because again, I have full trust and faith that you're going to take care of it all. Then the Rebbe goes on and says, second paragraph from the bottom, Bitochon b'Kadosh Baruch Hu moireshes ovis et kol Yehudi, the trust in Hashem, which is inherited from the forefathers of every Jew. Kakosov, like it says in the pasuk, b'chabotchu aveseinu, in you our forefathers had trust in, botchu v'atfatemoy, that they had trust in, and you saved them. If we have it from our forefathers, that means we have this naturally to us. So the only thing we have to do, all that's asked from us is bringing out this inherited trust in Hashem to actuality, in such a manner that this trust and confidence in Hashem will encompass the entire day-to-day life, and should permeate all of our details. In other words, every specific and every minor matter of our day-to-day life is permeated with our bitochon in Hashem. And corresponding and appropriate to the rule of our chachamim, in the measure that a person measures, that is how it's measured back to him. Moving, it's understood. The greater and the stronger that his bitochon is, and the more solidified it is, so it materializes the results of his confidence in a revealed way. Whatever he had confidence in Hashem, the stronger his trust and confidence, the greater it will manifest itself, that he will actually see that confidence actually being fulfilled, and founded and established even more through Hashem's blessings, both in the material and the spiritual thing. And the Rebbe concludes the letter that Yazer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem should help Shekola Amar Le'il, everything that was said previously. Bitzuah HaShlichos Alakis, lastly, is Dir B'Tachtoin, fulfilling the godly mission to make for Hashem a home down here below. Habitochon b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and what we spoke about before about the trust and confidence in Hashem, and what we spoke about before, Brachas HaKadosh Baruch Hu begashus and beruchnius, Hashem's brachas in the material and the spiritual. Yavoli de Gilui, it's a kol Yehudi v'midah hamleah v'yoser, to come to be revealed by every Jew in the fullest measure. V'davar zeh gam yochish v'yoiris milui habrachas haklalis l'klal Yisrael, and this should also speed up and awaken the fulfillment of the general brachas for Klal Yisrael. Begeula hamitis v'ashlema idei Mashiach tzidkenu, the true and complete redemption through Mashiach. The birchas ksiv chsimatov, with the bracha of being inscribed and sealed for good, l'shan tov masukah, for a good and sweet year. Begashmis u'beruchnis gam yachad, materially and spiritually together. The chsimus yad kodshay of the Rebbe.